February 11th, 2026. House Judiciary Committee hearing room. Epstein survivors sat in the audience wearing all white. Their names and photos exposed to the world because the Department of Justice failed to redact them. Pam Bondi sat with her back to them. Representative Pramila Jayapal asked Bondi to turn around and apologize. Bondi refused. Hit subscribe because what happened in that 5.5-hour hearing reveals Pam Bondi protected powerful predators while re-traumatizing the women they abused. Let me show you exactly what happened, because this wasn't just a bad hearing. This was the Attorney General of the United States attacking Congress, defending a cover-up, and refusing to face the survivors she betrayed. January 30th, 2026, the Department of Justice released over 3 million pages of Jeffrey Epstein files. The Epstein Files Transparency Act required full release by December 19th, 2025. DOJ missed that deadline by 42 days. When they finally released the files, they failed to redact dozens of survivor names: minors, teenagers, women who were trafficked and abused, their names, their photos, their identities. Published on the Department of Justice website for the entire world to see. The Wall Street Journal reviewed the files, found at least 43 victims whose names were not redacted. The New York Times found DOJ published dozens of nude photos of young women and possibly teenagers with their faces visible. Share this video with everyone you know because DOJ redacted the powerful and exposed the victims. A 2016 document listed women identified as Epstein victims. DOJ only redacted one name on that list, one. Every other victim's name was visible. Les Wexner, billionaire businessman, labeled a co-conspirator of Epstein in internal FBI memos. DOJ heavily redacted his name, protected his identity. One minor victim had her name revealed 20 times in a single document. She reported it to DOJ. They redacted her name 3 additional times, leaving 17 instances where her name remained exposed. Survivors had to find their own unredacted names, had to contact DOJ, had to beg them to fix the mistakes, while their identities spread across social media, while they faced online harassment, while they were re-traumatized all over again. Make sure you're subscribed to Daniel Cross Show, because that's what brought Epstein survivors to the February 11th hearing, wearing all white, some wearing white shirts with blacked out words representing the redactions. The shirts said, "The truth is, Epstein survivors are still waiting." Teresa Helm sat in the audience. Jess Michaels, Laura Blue McGee, the family of the late Virginia Giuffre, women who survived Epstein's abuse, women whose names DOJ failed to protect, women waiting for accountability. Representative Jamie Raskin opened the hearing by naming them, by acknowledging them, by calling out what DOJ did to them. He said, "You're not showing a lot of interest in the victims, Madam Attorney General. Whether it's Epstein's human trafficking ring or the homicidal governmental violence against citizens in Minneapolis. As Attorney General, you're siding with the perpetrators and you're ignoring the victims. That will be your legacy unless you act quickly to change course. You're running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. A massive Epstein cover-up, run by the Attorney General. That's what Raskin accused Bondi of, to her face, at the start of the hearing. Bondi's opening statement tried to deflect. She said, "I am deeply sorry for what any victim has been through, especially as a result of that monster. Deeply sorry," that's what she said. Then she spent the next 5 hours refusing to actually apologize, refusing to take responsibility, refusing to even turn around and face the survivors sitting behind her. Representative Pramila Jayapal's moment was devastating. She asked survivors in the room a question. If you have been unable to meet with the Department of Justice, please stand and raise your hand. Every single survivor stood. Every single one raised their hand. Check out what Jayapal said next. For the record, every single survivor has raised their hand. Then Jayapal asked Bondi directly, "I wish that you would turn around to the survivors who are standing right behind you and on a human level apologize to them for what you have done." Bondi's response, "I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics." Theatrics. Bondi called asking survivors to raise their hands theatrics, called asking for an apology getting in the gutter. Jayapal tried again. "This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm it has done to the survivors standing right behind you." Bondi refused, attacked Merrick Garland instead, blamed the previous administration, called the hearing a circus, called Jayapal unprofessional, but never apologized, never turned around, never faced the survivors. Representative Thomas Massie, Republican from Kentucky, co-sponsored the Epstein Files Transparency Act. He confronted Bondi with specific examples of the botched redactions. An email was sent to DOJ with a list of victims' names to protect. Nearly every name on that list was left visible in the released files. Massie told Bondi, "Literally the worst thing you could do to survivors, you did. The worst thing." And Bondi's response to Massie, a Republican, she attacked him, called him a failed politician with Trump derangement syndrome. Share this with anyone who needs to understand how Bondi operates. Attack, deflect, never take responsibility. Bondi brought a binder to the hearing. A black binder. Photos from the hearing show a page labeled Jayapal Pramila Search History. A list of documents, numbers that coincide with Epstein file numbers. DOJ had been tracking which documents Jayapal searched when she visited DOJ offices to view unredacted files. The Department of Justice surveilled a member of Congress, tracked her searches, compiled a list, brought it to the hearing as leverage, as intimidation. Jayapal responded, "It is totally inappropriate and against the separations of powers for the DOJ to surveil us as we search the Epstein files." Bondi showed up today with a burn book that held a printed search history of exactly what emails I searched. A burn book. That's what Jayapal called it. DOJ tracking Congress, weaponizing oversight, using search histories as ammunition against lawmakers doing their constitutional duty. Make sure you stay subscribed, because Bondi didn't just refuse to apologize to survivors, she attacked every Democrat who questioned her. Representative Jamie Raskin asked about damages for survivors whose privacy was violated. He pointed out Trump claimed $10 billion in damages from DOJ for alleged violations of his rights. Raskin asked, if Donald Trump can get $10 billion theoretically from the Department of Justice, how much should these people get for a far worse violation of their privacy rights and a far greater danger established to them in their lives? Bondi's response, Raskin is obsessed with Trump. She called him a washed-up loser lawyer. Representative Dan Goldman questioned Bondi. She responded, you're about as good of a lawyer today as you were when you tried to impeach President Trump in 2016. Representative Hank Johnson told Bondi, you do a Jekyll and Hyde kind of routine around here. You're nice to the Republicans and you turn like Hyde on Democrats. Personal attacks, over and over. Instead of answering questions, instead of taking responsibility, instead of facing survivors. Bondi bragged about releasing 3 million pages, touted the volume, but Raskin pointed out the Epstein Files Transparency Act required 6 million documents. DOJ only released 3 million. Where are the other 3 million? DOJ claims they're duplicative, but Raskin said, we know that there are actual memos of victim statements in there. Victim statements, unreleased, hidden, while survivors' names and photos got published for the world to see. Check out what Jayapal revealed during the hearing. She showed an email exchange. One side showed DOJ concealing the identity of Epstein's associate. The other side showed DOJ publicly listing the names of victims. Protect the powerful, expose the victims. That's DOJ's pattern. Massey caught DOJ red-handed. He found Les Wexner's name redacted in a memo labeling him a co-conspirator. Massey raised the issue publicly. Only then did DOJ unredact Wexner's name in that document. Massey told Bondi, I'm the only reason you unredacted an email of someone likely incriminated in the files. Because of me catching you red-handed. DOJ only fixed redactions protecting powerful men when caught, when forced, when publicly shamed, but they still haven't fixed all the survivors' names left exposed. Representative Jerry Nadler asked the question everyone wanted answered. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating? Bondi confirmed pending investigations involving Epstein collaborators, but provided no specifics, no names, no timeline, no accountability. Share this with anyone still wondering if Bondi is running a cover-up. The evidence is overwhelming. Survivors exposed, powerful men protected, Congress surveilled, questions deflected, responsibility refused, apologies denied. And while all this happened, survivors sat in the hearing room, wearing white, waiting for justice, waiting for acknowledgement, waiting for Bondi to turn around and face them. She never did. Representative Raskin grew so frustrated with Bondi's behavior, he said, we've never had a witness who has misunderstood our rules and been unable to conform his or her conduct to our rules before. 5.5 hours, Bondi yelled at Democrats, praised Republicans, deflected questions, attacked lawmakers personally, referenced the Dow Jones and NASDAQ averages when asked about Epstein files. Talked about everything except accountability. At one point, Bondi even defended prosecuting journalist Don Lemon for covering Minneapolis protests, defended hiring Jared Wise, a January 6th rioter who urged killing police officers, defended DOJ's handling of the Minneapolis shootings where ICE agents killed 2 protesters. Raskin's opening statement predicted this. He said, you're siding with the perpetrators and you're ignoring the victims. That will be your legacy. That prediction came true over 5.5 hours. Perpetrators protected, victims ignored, Bondi's legacy written in real time. The hearing revealed something else. DOJ set up a system for Congress to view unredacted Epstein files. 4 computers in a tiny room. Unique login and password for each member of Congress. No phones allowed. Only written notes on standalone notepads. Then DOJ tracked every search, compiled lists, surveilled members of Congress, brought those lists to the hearing as weapons. Representative Suhas Subramaniam described the setup, the restrictions, the surveillance, the intimidation. This is how Bondi's DOJ operates. Control access, monitor searches, weaponize oversight, punish questions. Make sure you're subscribed because here's what makes this entire hearing even worse. Bondi had the power to fix everything. She could have apologized to survivors. She could have committed to redacting all survivor names immediately. She could have promised to unredact powerful men's names. She could have released the other 3 million documents. She did none of that. She said she would work to fix any improper redactions, but only if people bring them to her attention, putting the burden on survivors, again. If any man's name was redacted that should not have been, we will, of course, unredact it. If a victim's name was unredacted, please bring it to us and we will redact it. Bring it to us. Survivors have to do DOJ's job, have to find their own names, have to report their own exposure while dealing with online harassment, while reliving trauma, while watching DOJ protect the men who abuse them. Committee Chairman Jim Jordan, Republican from Ohio, praised Bondi throughout the hearing, called her work reversing Biden-era DOJ actions heroic. Said, "What a difference a year makes. Under Attorney General Bondi, the DOJ has returned to its core missions, upholding the rule of law, going after the bad guys, and keeping Americans safe." Going after the bad guys. While Epstein's co-conspirators remain uncharged, while powerful men stay protected, while survivors get their names published online. Subscribe because this hearing matters beyond Epstein files. It reveals how Trump's DOJ operates. Attack oversight, weaponize information, protect power, punish victims. Bondi was confirmed as Attorney General on February 4, 2025. Senate vote 54 to 46. Only one Democrat, Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, voted for her. 1 year into her tenure, this is her legacy. Massive Epstein cover-up, survivors betrayed, Congress surveilled, accountability refused. The survivors who attended the hearing left without apologies, without commitments, without justice. They came to Washington hoping for acknowledgement. They got attacked as theatrics. Teresa Helm, Jess Michaels, Lara Bloom McGee, Virginia Giuffre's family, all the unnamed survivors watching online. They saw Pam Bondi refuse to turn around, refuse to face them, refuse to apologize for re-traumatizing them. That image will define Bondi's time as Attorney General, not the number of pages released, not the claims about protecting victims, the image of her back turned to survivors. Her refusal to look at the women her department betrayed. Representative Jayapal said it best. "I wish that you would turn around to the survivors who are standing right behind you and on a human level apologize to them for what you have done." On a human level. That's what survivors deserved. Basic human decency, basic acknowledgement, basic apology. Bondi refused, called it theatrics, called it getting in the gutter, sat with her back to them for 5.5 hours. February 11th, 2026, the day Pam Bondi showed exactly who she serves. Not survivors, not justice, not truth, power. She serves power. And power in Trump's DOJ means protecting the men who abused and exposing the women they abused. Share this with anyone who thinks Trump's DOJ is about law and order. It's not. It's about protecting Trump and his allies, even when those allies include Epstein's co-conspirators. Leave a comment. Do you think Bondi should resign? Should Congress hold her in contempt? Should survivors sue DOJ for damages? The answer determines whether there's any accountability left in this administration. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.